Lomond is the largest lake in Scotland and is the name of one of the most famous Scottish folk songs. Scots tradition and belief is that when a Scot dies, his or her soul or spirit shall travel to Scotland before passing on to the next world, which is called the low road of the song. The high road belongs to the living and the low road to the dead. The song goes, you take the high road and I'll take the low road and I'll be in Scotland before ye. But me and my true love will never meet again. This part of the song emphasizes the death of the one who travels the low road.
Composed in 1860, Kalinka is considered the most well-known Russian folk song. It refers to the snowball tree which has produced red berries and white flowers. This song is in verse-refrain form, and the refrain progressively gets faster, adding to the excitement of the song.
He's a very nice guy. His wife's really nice too. But it's like every spring they must come back, and they don't. At some point, the intersection will either have a roundabout or signals, and they're not going to have anything to complain about. They'll come back and go.
I noticed he responded to that.
You know, he's.
Board meeting of April 11th to order at this time. And would the clerk please call the roll?
Brethauer,
Here.
Staton, Carpenter,
Here.
Boudreaux,
Here.
Poole,
Here.
Grenier,
Here.
Follig,
Here. Okay, first agenda item is discussion with Dan Donahue from the Chocolate Caper. Hi, Dan. Come on up.
How are you guys?
Good.
Good, thank you.
So Jerry, this is the second reading and possible adoption of the ordinance. The only change is that we shrunk the area that would be impacted by the ordinance, and Matt's revised memo is calling the exemption area on the map.
Okay.
And I think it's, and then Jeff had a good idea when he helped me do the map. We thought we still leave it on the TIF map so you could see the difference between the TIF map,
Okay.
TIF 3 map, and the exemption area.
All right. Matt, do you have any discussion on this item?
No.
Any board members have any input at this time?
No, I do have a question. I apologize if this has already been discussed, but I was gone for the last meeting. Would an exemption be possible for outside the boundaries of the area marked on the map or not?
No, what this ordinance says is that within those boundaries, the requirement for that you have a separation distance does not apply, but it's only within that area.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And again, for members of the public or in the audience that might not know what this is for, the Dan and the Chocolate Keeper have applied for an exemption so that it can sell bottles of wine with, and hopefully pair it with chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah, so. Any further discussion? Could we please have a motion to approve?
I'd make a motion to approve ordinance 1605.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Darlene. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, Dan. Item B, public hearing and possible action by the board for Crystal Zuniga for Celebrations Banquet Hall. And again, she has filed an application for a Class B fermented malt beverage and Class C wine license at her property at 155 Brown Road, which is a banquet hall. Go ahead, you have any comments, Crystal?
No, I did a larger drawing of the room to show really the areas of storage that would be used and the closet storage that will have refrigeration in that can be locked and that premise. If that was a concern, to make sure that the safety of that any beer or wine would be secure if we're not there, so. Anybody have any other questions?
Thanks, Crystal. Any comments by staff?
I'm looking at a note here that Candy wrote that the village board should consider including the former fitness room in the premise description. So what exactly are you doing with the fitness center? Or
So the room, I think, is labeled on the drawings as the fitness room.
Yeah.
That's what she was referencing, so that's why on the drawings it says former fitness room. That is the room of the banquet hall. And in that room is where the closets are. There's very large closet areas where we were gonna install refrigeration, the whole,
so you are going to be using that room? Is that your?
yeah, that's the main room that we will be in, is that fitness room,
Okay,
Which you're calling the banquet hall.
which is gonna be the banquet.
gotcha. Okay.
So I think that drawing there that I submitted is the same drawing that was submitted previously, it's just kind of enlarged so you could see those closet spaces a little bit
Yep.
better.
Yep.
And those closets are, they do have doors, they close and they're locked, so,
Do you have plans to alarm the building at all?
yes. We wanna have some type of either alarms or cameras, yeah, for security reasons.
Have you thought about where you'd put those alarms?
No, I guess windows and doors, any like doors of entry and exits, and then the windows. I guess we could probably put them on those doors as well. Okay. And also with refrigeration, you usually like to have an alarm on them in case the refrigeration goes down, so you don't have any spoilage or loss of.
Beverages or food, so.
Can you describe the storage rooms at all? I obviously haven't seen them and don't have pictures of them.
So in the main room that we're going to use for the banquet facility, there's 2 large closets. I would say they're probably 4 by 8. So those are going to be the storage areas. So that way, they're inside the banquet room, they'll have access to it, and then they can also be locked.
Will any of your servers be under the age of 21?
No.
So everybody that's employed by you will be over the age of
Yeah.
21?
It'll generally either be myself, my husband, or I have a couple friends that will be working there if I'm not there.
And what controls have you thought to put in place to manage the inventory of the alcohol that's on the premise?
Well, we'll order per event. So I'll place the orders weekly per what the request of the event is. So if they request that they would like 2 half barrels, we'll order 2 half barrels. Just in my experience, even up at the bar, we had our trucks come in Thursday or Friday, and then they would pick up the empties on Monday. Anything that would be left over from those parties, we would just return for credit. We would not store anything and keep any leftovers. And then when we would order fresh for the next event.
And where will you be ordering from?
I will probably either be Frank Beer or Wisconsin Distributors.
So what you'll be doing is you'll be ordering up for the event, so when the delivery comes, you'll need to put it somewhere. So that place would be the storage facility.
Right, that will be in the
The doors will
storage.
be locked until the event.
Yes.
Then on the day of the event, all of the employees will be over 21. It'll be yourself or your husband that'll be on the premises for the event.
Yes.
You'll be controlling the distribution of the alcohol that way. And then the only reason that you'd be putting it back in storage and locking it up would be to give it back to the distributor the following business
Yeah.
day.
So if it would be like, well, if the event was on Saturday, they'd probably be picked up either Monday or Tuesday. Any empty barrels or, I guess I won't offer anything glass, but if they wanted cans, I would do cans, and then we could recycle the cans. But any barrels would be, once they're tapped and they're open, you can't really, and then you untap them, you can't use them again, so.
So what would you do if you had unused barrels that were tapped already?
I think with my experience with the vendors, they're pretty good about picking up and getting credits. So I guess if it wasn't something that we could, maybe say we had 2 back-to-back events and we had a backstock and we couldn't have it picked up, it's something that we could use initially right away the following weekend, that would be an option. Otherwise, they're pretty good about returns, at least the experience that I've had with them. I know the reps for the years I was up at Hacks, I know them pretty closely, and they've always been really good, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Any members of the board or members of the staff? Okay, hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to approve this Class B fermented malt beverage and Class C wine license.
So moved.
Could I please have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, and I'm going to turn the meeting back over to President Staton at this time.
Thank you. So, I think we're done, right?
Done? All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Crystal.
Okay, thank you.
So is the public hearing closed?
Yes. Yep. Sure, I didn't close it, but it was
Yeah.
assumed closed.
Is
Yep.
Brad here?
Yes, Brad's in the back. Yep.
Okay.
He's sitting.
Okay, so item C, discuss with Brad Willie regarding business park project and possible action. Good evening, Brad. So items here, email from Village Planner Mike Slavny regarding the comprehensive plan amendment, timing and cost, review of village attorney's memo regarding economic development grant to Brad, would meet the public purpose doctrine, and review of draft agreement to undertake development for projects. So welcome, Brad, if you want to update us.
And then Brad sent me
And Jim.
some information that Candy added to the packet today online. It should be online.
Oh, okay.
There was so much I decided to stick it online.
So, yeah, what we learned from last time here, we got after the last meeting, you guys were looking for a total project cost. It ranges a lot, depending on who you talk to, who you have build it. Anywhere from, I think, $700, $750 up to $1.2 million. You have, one of them was $650. and those quotes are enclosed with the package that you have. So yeah, we got prices on the building. The big question mark is still the site work. It ranges from a lot to a little, but it sounds like a solid number to get it up to where it's a buildable site is going to be around $80,000. And then from there we can do our foundation and we can take it from there. And we've also got a signed option to purchase from Pat Lyons for $44,000. So yeah, he discounted it quite a bit because it is such a poorly developed site. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. And then we're also potentially, well, we're gonna try to get another space in there. That's included in what I typed up for you guys. We're gonna try and get a rental space and move the Academy of Sound in there. So we'll have some zoning stuff we'll have to work with too, the way it sounds.
Okay. So questions, comments from trustees or staff?
So what Matt and I did was we put together this draft agreement, which includes $75,000, just to sort of, get the process moving ahead. And doesn't mean the board has to do that. The board can obviously do what you want, but we just thought it sort of gives you the parameters of what a deal could look like with Brad. And it's just for the board's review. And then Steve, as you indicated, Mike Slavny sort of did another email about, this, we'd have to go through a comprehensive plan. And it'd take about 2 to 3 months to go through that, which isn't too bad. So, and I do have this, if the board wants to, we can talk about this in closed session. It's noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So, there's a few things that I'd like to get some clarification on. The comment that you just made about the $75,000 grant, can you expand on that a little bit more, or explain that a little bit more?
That was the number we put in the draft agreement.
And how did you get to that number?
I'd been talking to Brad a little bit, and we thought that if the board made you correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, if the board made a commitment of $75,000, it would allow him to go out and hire the engineer to get the more definitive number to do the site work. Correct. And that if the board didn't give him that type of a grant up front, probably the project may not happen. Might be inaccurate.
Yep, that's accurate. Because right now, the way it sounds, we really don't know how much site work needs to be done until we hire an engineer, and that's $10,600. We already got the quote on that. And I didn't really want to spend the $10,600 until I had a good idea if this project was going to be possible. So that's why we're back here.
And I think you had an original quote way back when of like $167,000 for some site preparation, and so.
Correct.
Jeff, we kind of split $75,000.
Yeah.
So if you spent the $10,600 on the engineer, and the engineer came out and gave you a number, and that number was out of your reach, what would you do?
It's a good question. I haven't quite, from what I've talked to, from the contractors that I've talked with, they all think that this is a good number, but they all say that we don't know until there's some engineering done. So there is some confidence from all these earth-moving companies that this is a pretty good number, but there's just that shadow of a doubt that only an engineer can figure out. So if it does come and the engineer does find something bad and it's out of our budget, then it's out of our budget and it's probably a dead project.
So if we granted $75,000 up front, and out of that money, Brad spent $10,600 and found out from the engineer that the project was outside of his ability to fund, what would we do?
So the way this agreement is set up, the funds wouldn't be made available to Brad until he actually does the project. So the only thing what this agreement would do would make a commitment on the village's part to make funding in whatever level you decide is available or appropriate available, but it wouldn't actually provide the cash. So the way the agreement is set up, the funding would be provided, let's see here.
It's under,
I'm going the wrong way.
It's under, it'll
keep
only
going down.
reimburse. And then there's a listing of things that
Yep, keep
he can,
going.
we can reimburse him for.
there it is. Yep.
46.
It's on page 1, it goes onto page 2.
Okay, so it says that, first of all, the way the agreement is structured, the $75,000 would cover the cost of importing and compacting fill material and reimbursing Brad for certain village costs that would normally be paid by a developer, for example, up to a maximum of $75,000. The funding for the compacting and fill would not be made available until that work has been completed, and Brad has delivered invoices to the village demonstrating the actual cost of the work. So I think what I'm hearing is, from Brad, is he wants to know he's got an agreement with the village that if he goes forward, the village will make funding available before he spends the money on the engineering. So the village wouldn't actually give him any money unless he decides he is going forward, and he does move forward, and he closes on the property, and he spends the money on the fill and the compacting work.
So you could spend $10,600 of your own money and find out the project's outside of your reach, and you'd be out $10,600.
Yeah,
And you're okay with that?
I wouldn't have a choice. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not okay, but there's no choice, so.
yeah. It is what it is.
And what sorts of challenges do you see going forward to have Brad sublet part of this building to the Academy of Sound out in the business park? As far as ordinances?
Yeah, so we would have to address that from a zoning standpoint. I don't know if we've decided exactly.
I think
how-
Mike Slavny's actually looked at it and said it could work.
Would it be PDZ, Plan Development
I
Zoning?
think so, yep. Yep.
So it'd be a Plan Development Zoning District that would allow for that mix of uses.
Okay.
So we would have to change the comprehensive plan in order to do that, though.
You already have to.
The comp plan's being changed no matter
Right.
what, Jeff.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, Mike has briefly looked at this, and I think, Mike Slavny, excuse me, and I think he feels comfortable it's gonna work.
Okay.
Mr. Polly?
Yes, so Brad, it seems like the obvious first step is to find out if that lot's even buildable, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we gotta get the engineer there and,
And then in my mind, I guess if we find out it's buildable, then we'll move forward and worry about the Academy of Sound later. Now, do you own this lot now, or do you have an offer?
we have a signed option to purchase.
Option to purchase,
Yep.
okay. All right. So,
And, yeah, that, it's attached to the package.
right,
It should be in there.
I got it here now, finally.
I did not get a chance to add that stuff.
Sure.
That
Yeah, I
was
emailed
the
that.
second email I got from
Oh,
Brad
good.
around
Oh,
that time,
good.
so that's why it's not in your packet.
So, Mike, how we, assuming this moves forward, and we end up working with Brad on the larger number, how will we fund that?
So,
Because the TIF is closed, correct?
yep, you're right, Rick, yep. That's a good question. So our initial thought is that we would take out a state trust fund loan, because you can pay them back without a penalty. And when Jim Mann is here from Mike's company on May 2nd, we'll be talking about the closing at TIF 2. And so the village will be getting some distribution from that closing of TIF 2, and the village board at that point could actually use some of the money from the closing of TIF 2 to pay off the loan, if you want. Otherwise, you just keep the loan as a loan on our debt service.
Again, that's something we can decide in the future. Just when you're talking about grants, I was getting on a little bit of a discomfort level because it's so early in the year, and we don't know how our budget will be later.
Well, this
on.
would be debt service that we
Yeah.
wouldn't make the first debt service payment until next year anyways. And,
Okay.
I mean, we will also be taking out debt this year, and we'll be talking to Jim Mann. I don't think he's gonna wanna roll this into that larger debt. I don't believe so, but that'd be something we could talk to Jim about.
Well, I gotta believe Brad's pretty confident this is gonna go forward, or he wouldn't be gambling with over $10,000, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the project's, built out, it's gonna be bringing in over $10,000 extra per year for
Right.
taxes too, so there
Yep.
is some benefit for that.
And Brad, I was asked a question today, I want to make sure I get this right. So initially, how many jobs will you bring to the village?
Well, right now we have 4 full-time people down at the shop.
Okay.
And we're just we're maxed out for
Yeah.
what Greene County allowed us to do. And we couldn't fit any more people in there. So when we do move into Oregon, I do want to bring on 1 or 2 more people. So.
And then we also, Aaron can answer that too, I mean, that's just for the 8,000
Yep.
square feet, and we have the 2,000 square feet for the Academy of Sound, which, how many employees do you have? 12 employees, so.
So if we say, Brad, you'll have 6 employees and Aaron would have 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And an increase to the tax base of,
Yeah,
what, $10,000 plus dollars?
it should go up about $500,000, I would think, so that'd be about $10,000.
The difference is that if it was still in the TIF, we'd be collecting the entire, increment. This is, we'll be only collecting the village's rate, but I think you have to look at the other, not to try to convince the board what to do, but I think there's other benefits that come from doing the project if we can, because it's a challenging lot, as Brad and Jeff knows, and the reason I was asking about the jobs, I think it'd be a nice addition to the park.
So the reason I was interested, for the benefit of those that don't know or those that are watching on the
Yeah.
TV, is that the 2 criterion that are necessary, or at least 2 of the criterion that were identified as being necessary to meet the standard of a grant would be the increase in the tax base and creation of new jobs.
Right.
And so what Brad's proposing does both.
Right.
And that's important as I think about whether or not a grant from the village meets the public need, the public use purpose
Right.
of the law.
And I assume, Matt, you've reviewed the draft agreement?
And prepared it.
So then you did review it.
Hopefully.
And prepared the agreement and did the memo.
There's still a couple of blanks that need to be filled in. We need to flesh out in a little more detail the description of the facility. But otherwise, this basic outline of the agreement seems to make sense for what I understand you're trying to do. You're talking about the right issues, does it meet the public purpose doctrine? How are you gonna fund it? Is $75,000 a reasonable amount to make the project work? Those are the right questions.
Okay. So the description of the agenda item is discussion with Brad and possible action. What possible action are we looking at here?
To tell the staff and the attorney to finalize the agreement. And the board, I think what Brad's looking for is the board comfortable with the $75,000 grant.
So the action would be to,
Approve the agreement to undertake development.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I read it.
Do we want to do a closed session first, or just, go ahead?
It's up to you.
Yeah. I mean, the plan was to talk about this in closed session and come back.
Okay.
Approve it, but if we're ready to go, we're ready to go, so.
Yeah, if you're ready.
Well, I
If you wanna leave it out there and find out, we can
Well,
still
you
talk
wanna
about
call
it.
the motion?
I think as much as we can do in open session, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I have no problem.
I mean, I'd
Somebody wants
rather
to go.
just, this is in a preliminary mode right now, the way I look at this. And, if we want to talk about it more in closed session, but we're not doing anything, we can't,
Well, if you approve the agreement,
Yeah.
then you'll be done with the agreement. So
Yeah, right.
the purpose of closed session would be if any of you believe that it's appropriate to have a discussion, a confidential discussion about, for example, whether $75,000 is the amount you want to make available, whether you want to try and negotiate different terms than what are presented here. If you don't feel a need to have that kind of discussion, if you feel comfortable with what's in front of you and you don't need to have a confidential discussion, then by all means, do it
Two
in
of us
open.
do.
right.
Two of us do.
Right, so I guess the question is there anyone else on the board who feels that this should be discussed in a closed session before the agreement is acted on?
And I'm going to assume the staff is very comfortable with this also.
I am. Yep.
No, I'm fine. I mean, we would go to closed session, we want to negotiate further. And that's all we do in closed session, we can talk about more negotiating, and if we're set to go and okay with the agreement at 75,000, then we do it and get it done. So, then we have motion and second on the floor. Is there further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. In some economic development program, there's a monitoring of the jobs that are created as full-time equivalents. Is there any requirement for that to take place if we were to make the loan?
Not in this agreement, and so, no, I mean, that's the answer.
Okay.
This agreement just assumes that if the project is built as projected and described, it'll be necessary for them to have the employees there doing the work. But if you're looking for more specificity and an enforcement mechanism, we'd have to build that in.
Okay. I'm not thinking along those lines. I just wondered if there was a requirement.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, good question, thanks. Any further discussion? So we have a motion second to proceed with approving the agreement, and which includes $75,000 going forward for the Brad Willie project. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
I do want to thank, that was Matt's idea to have the agreement on the agenda tonight. I think it helped make the discussion move along, so I want to thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So is Eric here?
I don't,
Is Eric Lund here?
I don't see him.
Are we going to go ahead then?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so item D is the hotel project and possible action. To note what's there, 1, letter from Barb Groves, owner of motel property. 2, village administrator's look-back provision proposal to Eric Lund. Lund's email and village administrator's response regarding TIF loan payoff and look-back provision. Email and information from Lund regarding room vacancies. And email from Lund paying $2,500 or $3,800 invoice per his previous email.
And then there's there's another email in your folders where Mike Harrigan, who's here tonight, not on the phone, responded to Eric's last email.
Okay.
And
So who brings us up to speed first, you, Matt, or Mike? Or
I think I'll try it.
Okay.
And Mike can help me, and Matt can help me. I think the sticky point is the look-back provision.
Yeah.
So I think this is probably one of those things we should talk about, but I think I do have this notice for closed session. We should go into closed session and talk about it some more. I don't know if the board had a chance to read my email to Eric. You know, I was trying to come up with a way to make him more comfortable with the look-back provision, where I said, you know, the 10th year, if it was I raised it to 18%, the rate of return, and I said that we'd only go 50-50 with him, and that the money would be put back into the TIF, and he just balked at that. And then I sent him some look-back provisions, and based on Mike Harrigan's dealing with these look-back provisions and actually contacting the finance director, Eric's comments that he had in his email back to us just weren't accurate. So the hang-up is the look-back provision. And I think, my opinion, the board can talk about an open session, but I think that's something we're going to talk about in closed session, to be honest with you.
I would prefer to do closed session on this.
Okay. And we'll come out, I have it noticed that we can come out and talk about it then, but I
Yeah.
think there's a few things that maybe Mike and I want to share in closed session with the board.
So hold on, all these go right to number 4, go to closed session. And then-
I'm happy to go, you want to go through the letter? I should note, and I think Barb is here, that, just for the record, you cannot use room tax to pay off debt service. It's not allowed by state law, just for the record, you know. It's very, actually, I think Matt and I checked with the league recently, and in 2017, I think it's going to become even more restricted what you can use room tax for, I believe. So you cannot use it for debt service.
Okay.
So, and I guess I'm actually maybe thinking one thing. There's another issue that Eric had, and Barb mentioned in her letter, that the debt service was paid off in 5 years, which is not accurate, and I tried to show that by resending Mike's last page of his last analysis back to Eric. So.
Okay.
Wasn't PAYGO an issue that we need to talk about too?
And Eric will not do that. That's another.
So that's an issue we need to talk
Yep.
about.
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah, if you'd like to talk, you have to come to the microphone, please, Barb, and just give us name and address and
Okay, Barbara Groves. My address is 11212 45th Street West in Cortez, Florida.
okay.
I do own and have owned the property since 2001. It is low-income housing. I've been involved a couple of different times in the city's master plan, wanting to have a hotel here on that property. A couple of different hotel or construction people wanted to come in, or investors to do a hotel, but they've never been able to finance it. I feel we have a good person here who can finance it, who has a good record. My thinking is it's rather simple than all the arguments you guys are having. And I told Eric that I would leave my money in if that was an issue so he could get his down payment involved. And with that, if this does not go, I'm going to come in and I'll probably have to do some fix-up, but it's going to stay low-cost, affordable housing, and my taxes will be about $10,000 compared to the taxes of a $5.6 million hotel being, what, $193,000. And to me, that kind of very simplifies what your closed session should be discussing.
Okay.
And that's it.
Any questions? Thank you. Thanks for being here. So are we ready?
Unless there's any more questions.
Okay, so that will take us to item 4. And people here and watching, please note item 5, we come back and talk about what we discussed in closed session. So,
And Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt you before you read it. So we're not going to need Brad Willie, and we'll not be doing sanctuary, just for the hotel in closed
Okay.
session. So, sorry. just to make
no,
sure.
that's fine, thank
Yep.
you. The village board will adjourn into closed session during the meeting pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute, Section 19.851E, to discuss the possible use of tax increment financing and TIF 4 for the hotel project.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Boudreaux,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Poole,
Yes.
Pollock,
Yes.
Grenier,
Yes.
Brett Howard.
Yes.
Thank you. And we'll be going next door, so people in the audience can stay right here.
Yep. Except you if you want to.
Welcome, everyone, again. This is continuation of the meeting we had before we went to closed session to talk about the hotel. And item 5 is to report back from closed session about that. I will ask our attorney, Mr. Dragney, to do that. Whoops, where'd he go?
I can do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Since Eric is not
Here he comes.
Eric's not here. I will be sending Eric an email with the board's, summarize the board's discussion tonight in closed session.
Okay. And that'll be tomorrow, probably?
Tomorrow or Wednesday.
Okay.
But I would like to just reiterate that we're very excited about this project, and we think it'll be good for Oregon when it gets done.
Yeah, we feel what we did will keep moving on forward as we go, so that's our hope. Okay, so item 8, I'm sorry, that's not there yet. Item 6, approval of minutes, January 18, 2016 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Additions or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next is our vouchers. Item 7, we have vouchers tonight in the amount of $220,452.52 for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
I did have a question, I just have to get there. Go ahead, please.
I had a question, Lisa. There's a large number of bills for the Alliant Energy Corporation for stoplights and such buildings. I hadn't noticed it before. It seems like a rather large amount. Is that about the same as it is monthly?
Yep, that's how much it is. Yes.
Question, has the village undertaken an energy audit to determine if there's ways to reduce that amount?
We've not done an energy audit that I'm familiar with. Excuse me, one of the things I will say that they're looking at kind of improving at least the lighting to an LED, which has kind of came out a few weeks ago with some stuff we were doing, or they were doing on Alpine Parkway. I have yet to, I did ask them if that kind of comes at a cost savings in the future. They're still working that out because actually the fixtures cost more money up front. So it's all kind of in a flux right now. I will say whenever we do replace anything, we're trying to use as high efficiency motors and equipment as possible. But yeah, it seems high, I agree, but it's kind of remained consistently there.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, you sure can.
Follow up on that. Didn't Mark contact some student group? And didn't they come in here and look at some things for us?
They did, yeah, it was
Was that for energy though?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did we ever get the results, the board?
I don't remember what it, well, yeah, they did a report. I don't remember what the results were.
Okay.
I mean, we
we've
know.
done some of that.
I mean, when you look at what's on here, the village hall, the library, the senior center, these are inefficient buildings.
Right, but
I
we've
mean,
done some energy audits,
Absolutely.
basically, but it's,
And we've done some improvements over the year, but I mean, some of these buildings, you're sort of maxed out on what you're gonna do unless you do something pretty drastic.
Major, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually good. Doug had addressed the conversation that I was gonna have. So, thank you.
Other questions, Jerry?
Yes, I'd just like a little bit of background on item 1532, City of Madison, the shared traffic signals. I don't recall seeing that one before. It doesn't mean it hasn't been on our list, but
That's an annual, what page are you on? I'm trying to.
I'm on page 2.
Top.
Yeah, that's an annual cost that it includes, the maintenance as well as, any kind of, if they have to come out and repair anything, we get an itemized statement, and I believe that's an annual cost.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm aware of that arrangement. I just,
Yep.
I saw shared traffic signals, and it's like, where are we sharing traffic signals with the city, you know? But that answers my question, Jeff, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, seeing none, we have vouchers tonight in the amount of $220,452.52 for approval. Roll call, please.
Staton,
Yes.
Brethauer,
Yes.
Grenier,
Yes.
Poole,
yes.
Boudreaux,
Yes.
Bollig,
Yes.
Carpenter. Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Item 8, discussion of possible action regarding new language for community input section on board agendas. Matt?
Thank you. Mike called me not too long ago and asked if I would work with him to provide a little more clarification to the board and to the public regarding what is allowable and what's not allowable during the public comment section of your agenda. And this is particularly significant when it comes to public comment regarding items that are not on the agenda, where no one would really have reason to know that the board might be discussing that item. So what the statute says is that the public notice may provide for a period of public comment during which the body may receive information from members of the public. And so clearly, if someone wants to make a statement to the board, there's no problem with that. What becomes challenging is, and where we'll talk a little bit about the language is, what happens if board members have questions, they want to ask the person? What happens if there's a desire to have some discussion at the board about the item? And so where I believe the line needs to be drawn is between gathering information, which is permissible, and then going beyond the information gathering process. And I believe that based on the statute and discussions I had with the legal counsel at the league, that if board members want to ask follow-up questions to simply help clarify the information or gather the information, that's allowable within the concept of receiving information. Where I think the board needs to be cautious and draw the line is, once the person has provided the information and you've asked questions, the board needs to be very careful and limited in what it does in discussing the item as a board. So I think what's permissible would be a discussion about, well, what do we do procedurally? This person has come to us with this information. Should we refer it to committee? Should we refer the issue to staff and ask staff to bring something back to us? Should we put it on the agenda for a future meeting where we can actually have a substantive discussion? I think that kind of procedural discussion is okay. Going beyond that, I think would not be allowable. So it wouldn't, for example, be allowable for the board, after hearing from someone, to adopt a motion to do something formally in response to the information, beyond putting it on the next agenda or referring it to committee, for example. So in order to kind of help both the board and the public on a meeting-by-meeting basis be mindful of what's allowed and what's not, I drafted a paragraph that could be inserted on your agenda, and it's in, they all have the email?
Yep.
It's in the middle of the email. It says, public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including on items not listed on the board's agenda. Under the open meetings law, this section of the agenda allows the board to receive information and to ask questions of a presenter to facilitate a better understanding of the information. After receiving information from a member of the public, board members need to be careful about how they discuss an issue among themselves. Board members may discuss procedural matters relating to the information, such as whether the information should be directed to staff, referred to a committee, or placed on a future village board agenda. However, board members may not expand their discussion beyond such procedural matters. For example, board members should not have a discussion among themselves about how the issue should be addressed or resolved, and may not take substantive action on the issue unless the issue is listed on the board's agenda for such discussion or action. Now, that's a fairly long paragraph, and so the question, I guess, for the board is it helpful to you and to the public to have that on the agenda at every meeting so everyone's clear on it? Do you feel like that's too much? If you want us to try and scale it back, we will.
I think it's helpful to put in there what's allowed.
Okay.
And I would probably just leave out what's not allowed and assume that whatever's not specifically listed as allowed is not allowed.
And so, I mean, we could cross off the last sentence, 2 sentences, which are more about what's not allowed. And so that would simply be, board members may discuss procedural matters, blah, 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 period. And and then it wouldn't get into, however, you may not do this and do that. The other thing that, you know, I would say is that it can be hard for staff to jump, it seems impolite for me, for example, to jump in and interrupt when you're having these discussions. So one of the things we're trying to do is make this available to you all and to the public on the agenda itself, so that we can then sit back and not police it.
Yeah.
We don't like to interrupt people.
You have my permission to jump in and interrupt me anytime that I'm about to violate open records law.
Yeah, well, and we will if we need to, but I think it can be, can appear rude to, if nobody else, the person who's there, or if some staff member jumps in and stops you from doing something. So we wanted to, the other thing is we wanted to figure out, we've been pretty strict in terms of saying, no, you can't say anything. So as a result of the research we've done, we think we've expanded the scope of what's allowable to allow you to ask questions. And so that's okay.
But you gotta make, and this is where it gets tricky, and that's why we've been strict, is that you can't not have it like a discussion with the board members, you know, if somebody comes up and they have a parking complaint, you can ask them questions, but you gotta be really careful not engaging the other board members if you actually look like you're creating a discussion on an agenda.
Or asking the chief, hey, we just heard from this person about that, what can you do about that, chief? If it's not on the agenda, that's going too far. What you could do is you could say, staff, we'd like this on the agenda for the next meeting so we can discuss this with the chief.
I still think that's the safest thing to do, to be honest with you. The other thing I was gonna ask, which is not in here, is we really don't, right now we have 15 minutes will be provided, but we really have no limit on per a community member. And so does the board, I've seen in other city council agendas or board agendas where there's a limit of 3 minutes or 4 minutes or something like that per person. Is that something you want to add to that paragraph? Or
I guess I always assumed it was 15 minutes per person.
It's 15 minutes will be provided.
For whoever.
For the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can extend that if I choose to do so.
Yeah.
If people want to talk about that same issue, I usually would say, if someone else wants to address the board on this topic, please come forward. But I request you don't repeat what people have already said, because we've heard it one time.
It seems like it's been working okay, hasn't it?
It's seldom used.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for Judy, it never would be.
Thanks, Judy.
It really only becomes an issue when you have a controversial project and the whole neighborhood shows up and everyone wants to talk.
Yeah, well, then you can set rules that night then, can't we?
Well, Steve has the flexibility that he can extend it in the moment.
Yeah.
For whatever period of time you decide beyond 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Is reasonable.
Yeah, where this came from was two things. Number one, when I was at the school had a time like this. And over time, there's times it didn't work real well, but then once I got on the board, there were a couple of times people came, again, it's very seldom, but they came and they had, in both cases, kind of an issue. They weren't really happy about something, so they talked to the board, but then there'd be no discussion. Actually, they couldn't even talk to the board because there's nothing on the agenda. So they left madder than when they came in, and that's not right. So we brought this forward and got it approved, but it's just Matt and Mike's concern. Part of what they're saying is I should do a better job of policing it so they don't have to. I saw that in their eyes when they said that. And I tried, so what I would like is to have this shortened up, but put a please see note at end of agenda for further information if you wish to speak. I don't know if we need all this on the agenda all the time. I would prefer not have to read all that every time.
So we could have.
I see you're saying.
Just the
have
first.
That. I got you.
Yeah, just the first sentence at the public comment, and then the rest of the information could be a footnote or please see note.
Yeah.
Footnote 1 for further information.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Sure.
Yep. What do you think of that?
That sounds good. On
That's
the other
a big
hand,
chunk right in the middle one.
Yeah, we could do it that way, and then see how it goes.
Do you want to leave the 15 minutes? Has that been okay? So that would say this part of the agenda must be resident public. Oh, it's pretty simple. Boom. And then, in any event, I mean, basically, are we substituting the first sentence that's on the agenda now for that, and then leave the rest? In the event community members who wish to address the board, 15 minutes will be provided, otherwise the agenda will proceed as posted.
Yeah, that's fine.
So just kind of
And
substitute.
we have some control of that anyhow, so.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Does that sound okay?
Yep.
So you'll come back with, next time with what it is to, for approval?
Yep.
All right? Okay. So,
Thank you.
that takes us to item 9, a short version of community input. Anybody wish to address the board? Judy, I thought sure you would tonight.
15 minutes.
Yeah, get it while you can. So item 10, proclamations and announcements. Item A, board comments. We'll go to item B, staff comments. Item 1, Peggy?
Just a reminder that open book will be Monday, April 18th from 9 to 7, and Tuesday, April 19th from 9 to 3 by appointment, and Board of Review will be on Monday, May 23rd from 4 to 6 p.m.
Thank you. Item 2 and 3, Mr. Grace?
Vacancies on the HPC. We may actually have someone applying for the student member on there, so that's good. So that's going to happen. Then number 3 is the street projects. I purposely waited to talk about this after the elections. I didn't want to, look like I was inserting myself into the election process. But I heard some comments about that the village had not been spending money on street repair, and so I had Lisa go back, for basically a 5-year period starting in 2011. You can see, including this year, we're going to spend over $2 million on street work, and that doesn't even include some of the expensive water mains that we've been replacing. So I want the board to be aware of that. And then on the page before that is just the streets we're going to be doing this year: Walnut, Bethel Court, Amanda Court, and Cedar Drive. And I've asked Jeff and Gary to start working on the PACER program, which evaluates our streets, because I think we may, when you see the capital improvement plan, I may try to propose 3 or 4 year period where we may get somewhat aggressive on doing more mills and overlays. I think that as our debt starts to fall off, I know that there's a goal to try to save a lot of that debt capacity for the buildings, but I think this is an opportunity to also do some street work in the next couple of years as well. So I'll bringing that back to the board in the near future. So
I think we spent $700,000 last year, is that right?
Yeah, somewhere in that area.
Almost 600,000. Yeah. And a lot of that was up in the TIF, but we still got a lot of work done.
Still
And I'm not trying to. I know people, if their street's not fixed, I understand the feeling, but I don't want people to think that we're not spending. It's $2 million over 5. That's pretty significant money. So.
Well, and that's what we spent, right? That doesn't include what the county spent on Janesville Street, right?
So, some of that does. Yes, that's true. Yeah, their share.
Or what
that's
the
our
city
share of the
Fitchburg spent
right
on the approach.
Correct.
On MM.
Yeah.
MM, yeah.
It should also be noted that a lot of this money was spent during a time when a lot of communities were not spending money on infrastructure.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks, Jeff.
But one of the things I wanted to mention is that if you're looking for a street that needs to get worked on, just drive over to Cedar Drive. That's why you'll know that street needs to be mill and overlay. And I think we probably want to try to increase our street program before a street gets in that that type of shape. So.
Okay.
So we're working on it.
Any questions on that? Okay, so item 4, election results. Peggy?
I just want to say that overall the election went very well. We had about a 70% turnout. I don't know if you guys noticed, there's a handout on the information here, but the village has about 6,600 registered voters for some stats, and we had 521 new election day registrations, which is quite a few. We had about 400 absentee ballots, with the majority of those coming into our office, keeping staff busy. And Candy and I just want to say thank you to all of our election workers, the chief inspectors, and all of the staff that work hard to make things run so smoothly. So we can't do it without them. So.
Yeah, so again, thanks to the people that helped out as election workers, and to our employees, and thanks to you, Peggy, for your leadership. I know it's always a high-stress day for clerks when elections come around. It takes a lot of advance work, and
Candy.
People don't notice when things go well, but do something goes wrong, so we appreciate your work there. Yep. Thank you.
Steve, could I just make a quick comment on that?
You sure can.
Could I also add that we're always looking for election workers, right? Yes.
We actually have had about 20 new election workers, but we always lose people, so we can always use more election workers.
And I have fun. I try to work every election, and I just gotta say it's fun. And you get paid, like, I don't know, well, it's like $8 or $9 an hour, but the point is that you get involved in your community. I always try to work in the ward where I live, so I get to meet, like, all my neighbors that I don't know. And this year, Peggy had me working the registration table, and I sat down at quarter to 2, and I didn't get up until 7:15. And in that time, Joy and I registered 140 people.
Wow.
And there was still a line out the door, and I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. But it was so cool to see so many young people coming in. And then there was this one guy, I don't know, this is like going off subject, but I just wanted to say that there was this one gentleman came in, he was, I think, 68. He had never voted before, and he said this election was too important not to vote, and so he had done the homework on how to register and came in with all of his paperwork, and it just, like, it gave me a little bit of goosebumps. So we're doing a good job getting information out to the community of how to vote, where to vote, how to register. We just need more election workers. So,
And thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
yeah, it's a really fun day.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you've commented that before too. We appreciate that. Anything else on that? Okay, so item
Keep going. Yep.
5, upcoming meetings, Mr. Grace.
So next Monday, we'll be back here again for our regular board meeting. This is a special meeting tonight.
They're all special, Mike.
Jerry, thank you. I always say that for Jerry's benefit. And then we're gonna have Jeff's gonna have his public forum on South Main and Elm Street projects. And then, I was gonna ask the board your opinion. Typically, we have the organizational meeting, it would be next Tuesday, and it's typically like a 10-minute meeting. We make appointments and then we adjourn. And I was wondering, since I'm assuming most of you are gonna be here for the Civic Campus Plan Workshop meeting on the 25th, would it be okay to have the organizational meeting at 5:30, right before? Because I know two of you have a conflict next Tuesday anyway, so.
Yeah, that works.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, and we can legally do that, we checked the statute, so.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. And I mentioned, yeah, the flyer just got done today, and Joy will be sending this out tomorrow to many people, including the Library Board, Planning Commission, all the downtown property owners, and we're gonna do a good job of getting it out for the 25th. And then on May 2nd, Jim Mann from Elders will be here to talk about numerous financial matters, including the closing of TIF 2 that we were talking about when Brad was here. So May 9th is the finance meeting, and we're going to be reviewing the first quarter financials and start talking about the 2017 budget issues already. And then May 16th is the Ash Street Public Forum.
Okay, any questions on those? We've got item 11, communication and miscellaneous business. Item A, discussion and possible action regarding approval of the side letter agreement with WPPA regarding insurance premium overpayment repayment agreement.
Basically, we had a little error that we weren't charging the right amount, so the 3 officers will be paying us back over a period of time, and we did it through a side letter, and they all signed it.
Okay. So we need a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? So we have a motion second to approve the side letter agreement with WPPA regarding insurance premium overpayment repayment agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item B, discussion and possible action regarding Uriah Carpenter's appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission with a term expiring 2018. So need a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Do you want a campaign here, Uriah? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Uriah, for stepping up to do
Uriah.
that.
He's
Appreciate
actually, first meeting is Wednesday morning, right? Thank you. Thank you.
5 a.m., is that?
So, yeah, 5 a.m., yeah. Right.
Feels like it.
Item C, discussion and possible action regarding fire EMS district's ambulance purchase, taking out debt for village's share of the purchase.
Lisa, you want to do this?
I'll make the motion for discussion.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let Lisa explain this.
Okay.
No, or should I, let me do it?
I can try to explain it. I believe the fire commission has already approved the purchase. Okay.
Yes.
So, so with the trade-in, the cost is $205,000, and I don't think all these numbers quite add up based on the percentages, but they're pretty close. But since this original email came out, we met with Phil, and the discussion was, which is it, the town of Rutland?
Town of Oregon.
Town of Oregon.
The town of Oregon is gonna finance their own, but then one of the other one is either.
I think it's actually Town of Dunn, I believe.
The town of Dunn, I believe, is gonna finance their own portion instead of having the town of Oregon finance for the rest of them. Then they bill us and then everybody pays into them. So the discussion we had then is that we can possibly do the same thing because we're gonna be borrowing anyway this year. So there's not the funneling of money going from us to the town of Oregon. We would just pay our portion directly.
Do you have an approximate amount that we'd be borrowing?
For our portion?
Yeah.
Take like, what, 62% of what they're gonna borrow, right?
Yeah, it's the 185,000.
Is that what it is? Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, after the down
185.
payment.
So take about 60%, is
I think it's like 63.
63. Is it, okay.
Our portion is about 116,550.
Since we're doing all that other borrowing this year,
We'll just,
We can
would
roll
you
it in
do a
there.
trust fund loan for that also?
I mean, basically, an ambulance is kept for quite a long period of time, right? I mean, it is like we turned a squad over, a number of
Right.
years. I think we'll just add it into the general debt that we take out, Jerry.
Okay, thanks.
We get such a low rate on that as well.
Yeah. Because what's happening is, the town of Dunn loan is paid off this year, and that was around $20-some thousand. So this new borrowing will kind of replace the borrowing that we just paid off for the fire district. It'll be around the same dollar amount, so we figured we could structure it over 5 years and pay the ambulance off in 5 years with our borrowing.
Sounds like a good plan.
Any further questions or discussions? We have motion second to approve the purchase of the ambulance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item D, update regarding Hack Sports Page licenses.
He turned his license in.
Yeah, I saw this.
And he was very happy.
Short and sweet, right? Okay. Item E, email from Nancy Allen, support for the senior center.
Let's
See
see
the
that.
communications
Yeah,
there.
sir. Yep.
And then,
Is it appropriate for you to make any comments about what she puts in her letter, Mike? Because she reiterates some of the same things that I've heard and we've talked about that need to be cleared up relative to hours of operation and what's been discussed and what's gonna happen versus what isn't.
Yep, so once again, nothing has been decided regarding the senior center. The working group's meeting on April 28th, and we may have another meeting before that. The idea is to come with some issues, or not issues, excuse me, some ideas for the joint meeting that we're gonna have probably at the beginning of August with the towns. So, but yes, thank you, Jeff. Nothing has been decided how we're gonna deal with the Village of Brooklyn's pulling out of the center.
Is it fair to say that the senior center is generally considered to be a very high priority of the board and of the village, and that we're gonna do whatever we have to do to make sure that the senior center stays viable for the residents?
and I basically said that in my email that's in here too, so it has been a high priority. And
Right.
I think we'll continue to do so with this board. So.
It's just unfortunate that Brooklyn has chosen to not fund it.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else on that? Item F, review of Village Administrator's 2016 master calendar.
So this came up during the personnel meeting, and Jeannie asked me to put it on the agenda for the board to look at. I used to do this years ago, and now currently I'm just sharing this with the department heads when we meet twice a month, and I go through it, and it's a nice list. I keep track of things, and I add things on there if new projects come on. Does the board want to see this on a regular basis, or? I'm
I
happy
think
to.
quarterly'd be okay.
Okay, okay, I would do that.
It's always nice to know what you're doing, Mike.
You can keep tracking me, right? Sure.
It's
I'm
not
happy to
easy,
do
let
that.
me tell you, I try.
I see you're going on a bike ride on June 19th, though. You scheduling your bike
Yeah,
rides on
that's
here now?
Not me.
Oh.
Anything else on that? Okay, we'll go to item 12, report of committees. Item A, Planning Commission meeting from April 7th, 2016. Jeannie Carpenter, please.
Sure, so first item is a discussion of possible action, and I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt ordinance 1608, changing the zoning classification of the property located at 134 Janesville Street from central business to planned development district, and approving a general development plan and specific implementation plan for lighting of the downtown water tower, contingent upon the village planner's recommendations listed in his memo dated April 1st, 2016.
I'll second.
Thank you.
So the planning commission, did we actually have a public hearing on this?
We did, yep.
Yeah, and so we had a public
Yep.
hearing, and everyone seemed to be very excited about this. It passed the planning commission unanimously. I think we're pretty excited about getting the tower lit up. In your packet, there's a couple photos that you can see what exactly the tower would be lit. It'd be the bottom half of the tank and then about half of the legs.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it looks nice.
And also HPC also recommended approval.
Oh, yes.
What was the, again, reason for not pursuing putting the name on the tower? Not enough light? Was that, as I recall?
I don't think that's been addressed yet.
Well, yeah, it was discussed.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, but, okay.
It was just because it had not been there historically.
Oh, okay.
But that's nothing to do with the lighting.
That point is now done?
It's been decided
Oh, okay.
Decided not to?
not to.
Okay. Can Judy sell advertising on there?
Well, I would hope so.
Nice.
Don't suggest it.
Then it becomes a sign.
Oh, God.
That's good.
Oh, we don't want to go there.
Stop talking.
Okay, so back to business. We have the motion and second before us. Any further questions or discussion? The motion basically is for lighting of the downtown water tower. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 2 is next week, right?
Actually, it's going to be May 2nd.
Okay. Okay, so go to item 3, discussion of possible action regarding conditional use permit or CUP request for a proposed restaurant at 135 South Main. Jerry and Bonnie Thiel, who are here tonight for indoor and outdoor commercial entertainment, outdoor seating and dining, and commercial meat smoker for the proposed restaurant. Sorry, this is yours, isn't it?
That's
Yeah.
okay. So I can, I'll go
You're
ahead and
doing a
make
really good job, though.
I'll go ahead and make the motion, make a motion to approve the conditional use permit and agreement for 135 South Main Street, contingent upon the village planner's recommendations in his memo dated March 29th, 2016, items 2 through 5, and the changes on the CUP agreement, and you want to look at item 2C, page 3, and we added that to read, fencing or hedge required. Applicant of the property shall install continuous hedge from the southeast corner of the property to the southeast corner of the existing building, excepting the access point to the patio.
I'll second. Tie again. God, it's on fire tonight.
So I think there's information in your packet on that if you're looking at about the changes or the contingencies of the village planner's recommendations. We talked a lot about the fencing or the hedge, and there was a lot of discussion about plants. It was really exciting. I think we decided that it was going to be something attractive looking, between 4 and 6 feet high.
Was there some issue that somebody said they forgot to bring up?
It was the no smoking on the patio.
Oh, has that been put in here yet or not?
I have it on the agenda.
It's not in the.
And I actually talked to Jerry today, and they're not going to allow smoking, but but you could add it to the CUP if you wanted to do it.
I wasn't going to make it part of my motion.
That's fine.
Until I found out from them what they were thinking.
Okay.
So Jerry and Bonnie, did you want to make any comments on this, or are we okay at the present time? Okay. Well, I'd say if they don't want, you're not going to allow smoking, let's just put that in writing. That'd be my thought.
Make it a part.
Matt, you want to?
Yeah, so what's actually, the action item is the conditional use permit and agreement that's included in the packet, and the conditions that the plan commission recommended, including the ones in the village planner's memo, those have all been incorporated in that document. So the only one that isn't in that document right now that we've talked about tonight is if you want to add a condition that there be no smoking on the patio, that would have to be added. But the other conditions that the Plan Commission recommended are all already in the document.
Okay.
So, let me ask, because I'm not a fan of restricting myself by law and by policy and ordinance and such. I like to be able to use my judgment. Is there a county ordinance that we have to consider with regard to smoking on the patio?
It wouldn't be a county ordinance. There is, and I'm a little bit out of the loop on where state law is right now. There was a whole lot of discussion a few years ago as a result of some changes in the law regarding smoking that may or may not impact smoking on the patio, and I'm not sure because I haven't gone back and dug all that stuff out. So I'm not sure what the current state of the law is in Wisconsin or at this location in terms of smoking, whether it would be allowed on the patio or not. If the village believes that as a matter of zoning, it should prohibit smoking on the patio in this conditional use permit, you could do that. I know there was one neighbor who lived across the street who was at the Plan Commission meeting and who expressed concerns about whether they would smell smoke if people were smoking on the patio. I think that wasn't included in the actual Plan Commission motion as a condition, but one of the Plan Commission members, I think, after the meeting said, oh, he'd forgotten about it.
Yep.
So it just wasn't addressed in the formal action taken by the Plan Commission, so we just wanted to make the board aware of it. Whether you choose to include it or not is up to you all.
So before I'd be willing to vote, I'd really like to ask Jerry and Bonnie their preference, but I don't know what the appropriate way to do that is. I don't want to make you walk all the way up to the microphone to answer one question for me, but a nod would do it, but I don't know if we can get away with that.
You can't.
No?
It's one of the rules.
Okay. So, yeah, so if you could just tell everybody who you are, where you live.
Yep. Bonnie Thiel.
That's the Phil Donahue microphone.
Yeah, so, yeah, the intent is that the patio itself is going to be, for families, for family use, being ice cream but, I anticipate that people will be, eating ribs and barbecue out there. My only concern is that, it's not going to be a place where we've got ashtrays set up for everything, which brings along another, maintenance issue, I guess, but I would only be concerned that someone who's 2 houses down on South Main Street might see someone lighting up a cigarette and then there's an issue. So I'm wondering if it should, it's going to be a no smoking area, we'll have it posted no smoking, but if someone lights up a cigarette outside, I don't want it to become an issue for us.
So one way to deal with that is to craft the condition so that instead of saying smoking shall not be allowed, you could say require that they post it as a non-smoking area and use reasonable efforts to enforce that or something like that.
Does that work?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. We don't need an issue over somebody lighting a cigarette out there if we say they can't. Yeah.
We're not even gonna have swearing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
for
post no
families.
swearing?
It's for families. Swearing and smoking ice cream.
Yes.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So do we need to add that condition to my motion?
If you want.
Okay, so, if it's okay to this person who seconded, I'll amend my motion that, we also add a condition that the property owners post a no smoking on the patio.
Is that what you need?
I'm fine with
What you
that.
said?
Just fine with that, okay.
And Doug,
Yeah.
Did you second it?
We sort of
or
did it
simultaneous
simultaneously.
seconds.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would just modify it to say that slightly, that the conditional use permit include an additional condition of approval requiring the owners to post the outdoor patio as a non-smoking area.
That sounds great.
Doesn't it?
You got that right, Peggy?
applying. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oops, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that they will be updating Exhibit A to match the site plan, I think we already talked about, so.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Item 4?
Item 4, discussion and possible action on, and this is my motion, to approve the amended certified survey map at 1350 South Fish Hatchery Road for additional right-of-way dedication.
Second.
And Mr. Slavny explained to the planning commission this way that he hardly ever wants to pass up an opportunity to try to get more right-of-way in a major, well, it's not a major intersection now, but if that's where the veterinary clinic is, and if the county, or when the county plans to widen that intersection or make turning lanes, it would be good to have right-of-way dedication set.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And then item 5 is June 6th?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Jeannie. Next is Personnel, Public Safety, and Protection Committee meeting, March 28, 2016. You're back on.
All right. So we're going to have a discussion of possible action regarding parking regulations. So this is my motion, that we conduct the first reading of ordinance 1609, repeal and recreate section 7.02, section 8, to relating to large vehicle parking restrictions.
Second.
Thank you.
And let me look at this.
So, we've had the resident on Lynn Trail, Jeannie.
Yes.
Has been at a couple of committee meetings, and he called me today, and he doesn't feel like we're there yet with the ordinance.
Okay.
And so I talked to Matt about it, and I think we're at the point where, if it's okay with you and the rest of the board, I'm just gonna ask him for the language. Because he feels that the way it's written now, including the 21 feet, there's still gonna be a problem with having contractor trailers parked on the street during the day for more than an hour.
I'll just provide a little more meat on that. The direction we were given by the committee was to limit the definition of large vehicles in the ordinance in a way that would really limit it to semi-trucks was, I think, what the direction was. And so the challenge in drafting an ordinance like this, or in drafting many ordinances, can be with definitions. And so here the real challenge is defining large vehicle in a way that matches up with what the committee was aiming for. I actually was able to locate in the Wisconsin statute some definitions that seemed to be aimed at defining the kind of vehicle we were talking about. And that's where this definition came from in large part. So in order to be deemed a large vehicle, it would have to be either a truck tractor or a road tractor, which means a motor vehicle designed or used to transport property having a gross vehicle weight rating of 26,001 pounds, or a registered weight or actual gross weight of more than 26,000 pounds. So that's just the tractor trailer piece. And so looking at the statutes, it looks like that weight class is getting at the kind of tractor that would be used to pull a semi-trailer. And I don't know that that's what the resident was concerned about, because the other piece of this, I say, or a semi-trailer. And I defined a semi-trailer based on a length of greater than 21 feet. And again, I got that out of the statute.
And I think the direction we gave you was 53 feet.
For just the semi-trailer piece, that may be right, I'm not remembering that specifically. So, one thing we could do is just change that from 21 to 53.
53. Yep.
And so then if somebody has just a semi-trailer disconnected from anything else, it's 53 feet or longer, that wouldn't be allowed. That may solve the problem, I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about it that night, and he was fine with that.
But keep in mind, there's semi-trailers out there that are less than 20 or 53 feet in that neighborhood, what, 24? 22, somewhere in there?
30-something,
Yeah. So, but that would be that would be okay then?
And we talked about that, and yeah, we thought that would be okay.
Okay.
But if you guys don't think that's okay, speak
Well,
now.
You know, I'm looking at this because I can understand where he's coming from, but I think the trailers that he would be talking about, but I don't want to speak for him because I don't know for sure, but the one I would be talking about, I don't know if 21 foot seems to be okay, because most of them are gonna be less than that. Most construction job trailers are less than 21 feet. So I would think that would be okay, but I don't know, I couldn't stick around for that part of the meeting, I had another prior appointment.
And
But
he,
I don't know.
and Eric, when he was talking to me today, David, his name is David, he was saying that he was focusing on a pickup truck with a boat attached to it.
Right,
would
but
be
this
the-
is more talking more trailer.
Yeah, but the
Now
fact
we're
that
not talking about a truck attached to that trailer.
I know, I think his point was that, I knew he and I were talking about two different things, and the fact that he didn't understand this is, I don't know if we need to make it, I'm not, and Matt and I are like, I'm not sure how we make it.
Any more clear?
Yeah, that's what we thought, maybe give him a shot at it, I don't know, yeah, I don't know.
But I think that I think he was perhaps misreading the ordinance, because he seemed to think if you had a pickup truck with a boat attached to it, that combined would be more than 21 feet. As long as the trailer piece itself is 21 feet or less, that would be okay, as I read the ordinance.
And he said there may be some that would be impacted, that trailer.
And that might be.
Yeah, but then if you go to 53, then it won't.
53 will cover a lot of
How
territory.
long is 21 feet? Like, is that table, is that,
Those are 8 foot.
those are 8-foot tables?
Is there 8?
Probably 10-foot table.
6?
6, 8.
No, 6.
If these are all 6 feet, 6, 12, 18, it would be 18 feet from there to there? Is that right?
Okay, I think it's 6, 8, 6.
6, 8, 6?
This
This is 20 feet from end to end?
Yeah.
20 feet from end to end.
In
Like
my
I said,
mind,
I personally think that's okay, but I don't
I do
know.
too.
He said he was in landscaping too, so maybe they got landscaping trailers, maybe they're bigger, I don't know. I don't know.
Chief, are your officers gonna measure trailers?
I hope not, but
Yeah.
evidently we're gonna have to.
Only if
I
there's.
mean, I thought
I
we
think
leave
you're
it,
only gonna have to if someone calls you and asks you.
yeah, we leave it at 21, and if there becomes a problem, then check it out and go from there, and
I would just like to go on record that I do not want your officers out there measuring
I need
trailers
to increase my
randomly.
budget to, get some measuring tape.
Everyone gets a tape measure.
no
on the duty
problem.
belt.
Yes.
You need a measure.
One for every
Get the
car.
tape measure out.
Well, since this is the first reading, I could offer for him to come to the
Yeah.
board meeting next week.
Oh, that's true.
That's what I'll
Give
do.
feedback via email.
Yeah, that's what I'll do.
And I
Okay.
also know, he said
That's a
something
lot
about
of
camper.
trailer.
Citizen?
You know, he said something about a mobile home or your
Yep.
RV kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's an RV, that's not a semi-trailer, so
I know.
this doesn't qualify.
I don't believe this covers an RV.
Right, that's
And the
what I'm
committee
saying,
did not
so-
want RVs to be covered.
Right, so I think maybe he's just, maybe not understanding, but I'm not gonna put words in his mouth, I don't know.
And
He's been very helpful.
And really, the devil is in the details drafting these things.
Yeah.
'Cause
I'll see if he can come to the board meeting.
Okay.
So, it's only the first reading, so.
Any further discussion? So we have a motion and a second for the first reading of ordinance number 16-09, repeal and recreate section 7.028 related to large vehicle parking restrictions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that'll come back to us. Item 2, please.
Discussion of a compliance checks and possible action. And this is, we talked about possibly revising liquor license regulations related to compliance checks. And what we're recommending is that the village board may request that businesses that don't comply with compliance checks come before the board. And we asked Attorney Dregney to work on a draft and bring it to the village board. So is that coming at a future meeting?
Yes.
All right.
I'll second that motion.
I don't think we have
Let's
to make a
come
motion.
No.
It's
next
coming,
week.
yeah.
At the next special meeting.
Item 3, discussion and possible action, and this is a motion to approve resolution number 1607, First Amendment of 2016 salary schedule.
So, or I'll second.
And I'll let someone else explain that for me.
This is the first amendment to the schedule, as Jeannie indicated, and it's just correcting some things and adjusting some things on the salary schedule. Like, for example, we revised the deputy clerk, deputy treasurer position, so we dropped the salary a little bit, and so that's reflected on this revised schedule. It's one of the examples.
Okay. Any further questions or comments, anyone?
The fiscal impact is minimal then? Mike?
Well, everything is in the budget.
But we're not making a motion right now to adjust any salaries. We're just adjusting the schedule so that it accurately reflects the salaries that have already been agreed upon.
Correct. For example, if you turn to the last page, the Assistant Director, Senior Center, what we did was we showed that what she was getting paid as of the beginning of the year, and what's already been approved is she gets her second adjustment on July 1st. The salary also schedule now indicates that the sergeants are now non-exempt, which you already done. So these are things that the board's already acted on, but that we need to keep the salary schedule current.
Further questions? Okay, so we have motion second to approve resolution number 16-07, First Amendment of 2016 salary schedule. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 4, please.
Item 4 is discussion of possible action regarding revised deputy clerk job description. And this is the former deputy clerk, deputy treasurer, and that job description is in our packets. So I would move that we approve the revised deputy clerk job description.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 5, please.
Discussion of possible action regarding allowing sergeants to count comp hours towards their 2,080 hours for the year. And so my motion is to approve amendment to chart allowing sergeants to count comp hours towards their 2,080 hours of the year.
Second.
Thank you.
And Chief Yule was in favor of this. I don't know if you have questions or if you want to explain it briefly.
Yeah, well, our sergeants have to maintain 28 hours to get the benefits. And so right now they're on a 6-3 rotation, and sometimes they don't necessarily reach that 20-80 hours. And so they would like to be able to use, right now the chart says that any time that they have over 8.5 hours per day must be taken in either comp or overtime pay. But they'd like to have the option to be able to count that time towards this 20-80 hours, and that's what this resolution is allowing us to do.
And the key is, before we agreed to do this with them, they all agreed to do this.
Yes.
So all three of them, it doesn't really affect Chad, because Chad works 40 hours during the week. But so the 3 sergeants that are on rotation, they will do this until they hit 2080. Once they hit 2080, then they'll get comp time or overtime. So.
Okay. Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item 6, initial discussion of possible action regarding the review of format and options for salary schedule request for RFP and 2016 budget funding. So first, in our packets, we have a PowerPoint page from October 12th, 2015, with the budget meeting and the 2016 budget page. We have RFPs in there and groups response to RFP. And so at the committee meeting, we discussed the 3 options listed there. To apply the $10,000 that we had budgeted in different ways. And so this is our committee, our recommendation, and this will be my motion, that staff conduct an annual salary survey and present the results to the Personnel, Public Safety, and Protection Committee prior to applying the budgeted $10,000 for 2016 wage adjustments. A full-scale classification study will occur in 2017.
Second.
Thank you.
Any questions on that one?
Sounds like the right way to go.
Pretty much everything we asked for, I think.
Yep. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Jeannie. Item C, Public Works and Utility, Trustee Poole.
All right, item 1, it says discussion of possible action regarding the village's special assessment policy for future roadway improvements. Were we gonna hold off on that?
So, Eric, if you want, Matt has done some homework on this.
Okay.
And Matt's, not to speak for you, but Matt's prepared to talk about what at least another community did as far as replacing lead water services. And the question at the committee meeting was, could we mandate that, and I'll let Matt talk about that. And then I put a copy of the articles in the paper this morning about Lake Mills, where you know, what happens when the community doesn't, mandate that, you know, Lake Mills, it looks like, has done projects, and then, you know, now you've got lead services that are still, present. So that's one issue, and then Jeff and I would want to talk about, depending on how that discussion goes, what the board wants to do with the actual special assessment for the sidewalk, curb and gutter, and driveway aprons.
Wouldn't it be better for us to take this back to the Public Works Committee?
We could, I knew you're not, I was gonna suggest if you
As
wanted to do
opposed to
that.
discuss it in open board?
We could do that. Yep, up to you.
I would take that in the first place.
Sure.
Sorry.
Is that okay, everybody?
Yes.
I didn't wanna, I was gonna give you the ordinance, it's the Village of Kiwanee, is it?
City of Kiwanee.
Yeah, I'll give it to you, I'll put it in the packet then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, sure.
Item 2?
Item 2, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the Public Works Director to advertise for public bid solicitation for South Main Street and Elm Street Road and utility improvement projects.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, this is a budgeted item, and he just wants to get started on, get the process rolling here. So we
Well,
can-
yeah, I mean, they have basically, you know, with this project is gonna be the second half of the summer this year for Elm and South Main Street. It's been under design, and everything's coming together for that, so obviously we wanna get approval to go out to public bid for that work. I have confirmed that, you know, if we do talk about special assessments, those can be talked about, or they can be discussed, and they can be implemented throughout the project, you know, throughout the process. We're not under a time frame to decide something about special assessments before we advertise or award the project. The only other thing is, in this, a letter that we would like to send out, tomorrow if possible, to the residents that are affected along this corridor. And, it's just the last 2 pages of this little section, really just notifying them of the, planned project. A public hearing we're going to have, discussion, leaving it open that, you know, assessments may be assessed, and that's going to be discussed at a later date, as well as kind of giving them a heads up, because this is an area that is, in an area of, lead services that we want to be replacing. And we're gonna take up the lead service discussion, I believe, at Public Works meeting as well.
Yep, we'll do that.
Okay.
If you need a motion to allow you to send that letter out, I would make that motion.
Yeah, that'd be
I
good.
think it's a very well-written letter, and it's good information for the village residents, and the sooner they get it, the more they can think about it.
Now, that's an item that's not on the agenda.
Well, but it's honestly, the motion we need is to actually advertise.
Right, so I
And
made
then-
that, and that's been seconded.
Right. The board can just give its blessing to send the letter out. Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff, bless.
So blessed.
So blessed, thank you. That's the right, I mean, that's not the right term, but the okay.
So okay,
And blessed.
And
and
blessed,
blessed
yeah.
and moved,
Anything else on item
anything short of
C2?
posting it.
Do we need to second that?
I don't, do we have to second a blessing?
Okay.
No.
That just sails right through.
It just goes right, that's good. I like
Can't
that.
dispute that. Okay, so any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 3, please.
Item 3 is, make a motion to approve the new water use agreement.
Second.
This is basically to let contractors know that we need to start making sure we get the construction meters and everything, and what we're gonna do if they don't do it.
Right, we cleaned up this, the old agreement, we ran actually through Public Works first, and came up with the new agreement at the next meeting. Basically, it just needed to be updated a little bit. This is something that'll go out, and has gone out with packets for new construction. We make all contractors submit this. It just says we are going to honor the system by putting in a meter, and putting in a meter you give us, and then at the end of your construction, will be paid for that water you use.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? We have a motion second to approve the new water use agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 4 is tabled to next month, or next week.
Next Monday,
Okay. Thanks, Eric. Go to item 13, minutes not requiring action, there are none. Item 14, unfinished business, there is none. Item 15, new business is approval of pending new operator licenses. These have been approved by the police department. At headquarters, Natasha Croissant and Nicholas Kalnin. Mulligan's, Magnolia Grenewald, and Stop and Go, Michaela Hopine.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Looks like we're all set. The please approve them. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 16 lists some future agenda items that will come our way. Takes us to 17, which is a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I know,